I swore I would never see that ship again. Once it was my job, my home, and my curse. Because of the greed of its owners, it became a coffin that took the lives of my friends and my family. They walked away untouched, hiding the truth. But now the liner has returned from the shadows, and with it, the ones responsible. For them it's a luxury cruise. For me it's an arena of revenge. The massive silhouette of the ship towered above the port, its lights glittering against the night sky like a palace on water. To the wealthy passengers boarding it, this was nothing but another glamorous voyage. To me it was a tomb resurrected from the deep. I watched from the shadows, hidden among the workers unloading crates of supplies. My hands trembled, not from fear but from rage long caged inside me. Every laugh that echoed from the polished decks, every champagne glass clinking in celebration, sounded like mockery. They had rebuilt the ship with blood money, turning tragedy into profit. Faces I hadn't seen in years appeared one by one. Men in suits, women dripping with diamonds. The very people who had signed papers ignored safety warnings and buried evidence after the disaster. Their arrogance hadn't aged. They walked the red-carpeted gangway as if they were untouchable. But they weren't. Not anymore. I carried no luggage, only a forged ID badge and a plan years in the making. The world believed me dead along with the others, swallowed by the ocean. That lie was my shield. Tonight I would step aboard unseen, just another shadow among the staff. As I passed the security checkpoint, the scanner beeped green, granting me entry. The hum of the engines beneath my feet sent shivers through me. Memories came flooding back. Screams in the dark, metal tearing, flames licking the night sky. I bit down hard, forcing the images away. This was not the past. This was the beginning. The ship's corridors gleamed with marble floors and golden railings. Music drifted from the ballroom where guests danced under chandeliers. I slipped past unnoticed, moving deeper into the vessel. I wasn't here to blend in, I was here to hunt. One by one I would draw them out. One by one I would make them face the fear they had sold to others. And when the night was over, this floating palace would no longer be their sanctuary. Would be their prison. The first night on the ship was always the same, an endless display of wealth and arrogance. Champagne towers. Crystal chandeliers. Laughter so loud it drowned out the hum of the engines. I stood in the corner of the ballroom, dressed in the uniform of a staff member. Nobody looked twice. To them I was invisible, just another servant to refill their glasses, bow politely and disappear. But I wasn't here to serve. I was here to watch. And to remember. Every smile on their faces was a blade twisting deeper into my chest. I saw him first, the chief architect of the disaster, a man whose name was buried in the investigation but who had signed off on every safety violation. His gray hair was slicked back, his laughter booming as he bragged about profits. He clinked glasses with another, a woman draped in emeralds, the queen of the investors. She had forced the ship to sail despite warnings of engine faults. They toasted as if no lives had been lost. As if the ocean hadn't claimed hundreds. As if my family's screams were nothing but whispers carried away by the tide. My hand clenched the tray so tightly, I thought the crystal stemware would shatter in my grip. Not yet. Not here. Revenge had to be patient. I left the ballroom, disappearing into the veins of the ship, the long metal corridors where only crew and staff wandered. The sound of the party dimmed behind me, replaced by the hum of engines and the groan of steel against the waves. I knew this ship better than anyone. I had studied its blueprints, memorized its routes, mapped every weak point. I wasn't here only to punish them with fear. I was here to turn the vessel itself into my weapon. In the crew quarters no one looked at me twice. I slipped into a storage room, locked the door and pulled out my hidden pack. Inside, tools, wires, small devices that could control light, sound, even doors. Nothing lethal. Not yet. But enough to turn this floating palace into a nightmare maze. As midnight approached, I walked the decks alone. The moonlight stretched across the water, silver on black. For a moment I could almost hear the past, the chaos, the fire, the water rushing in. My breath caught in my throat. This was more than revenge. This was justice. The first strike came quietly. At 1 a.m. the power in the ballroom flickered. Music stuttered. Lights dimmed. Guests gasped, laughter turning into nervous whispers. I watched from the shadows as the crew rushed to reassure them, but I had already rerouted the system. For 10 seconds total darkness swallowed the room. 10 seconds was enough. When the lights returned, one of the grand chandeliers above the dance floor swayed violently, chains groaning as if ready to snap. Gasps, screams. The guests scrambled back, their perfect night fractured. They thought it was an accident. They thought it was a glitch. But I knew better. And soon, so would they. In my mind I replayed their crimes. Every ignored warning. Every silenced worker. Every penny earned from the suffering of the dead. They had built this ship on bones. Now I would make them feel the weight of every one of those bodies pressing down on them. Not in a single blow. Not in an instant. But piece by piece. Fear by fear. Until they begged for the same mercy they had denied others. And this was only the beginning. Tomorrow, when the ship was far from any shore, when the ocean stretched endlessly on every side, the real game would begin. The next morning the sea stretched like glass. No land in sight. No escape. Exactly as I had planned. The passengers woke to luxury, breakfast tables lined with fruit and champagne. But beneath the calm, the ship was already mine. I had rewired the doors. I had rerouted the communication lines. The captain thought he commanded this vessel, but the truth was simple. I held the strings. And today I would pull them. At noon it began. The dining hall was packed when the doors slammed shut. Metal locks groaned into place. Panic rippled through the crowd. A voice echoed from the speakers, one they hadn't heard in years. My voice. Do you remember the fire? The screams? The lifeboats that never launched? The guests froze, eyes wide. They knew. Even if they didn't recognize me at first, they knew what this was about. You thought the ocean swallowed your sins. You thought the world forgot. But I didn't. I remember every face you condemned. And now so will you. The lights flickered. Then screens across the hall lit up, grainy footage from years ago. Flames devouring the decks. Passengers pounding on sealed doors. Children crying for help that never came. Their laughter was gone now. Their faces twisted in horror. Some shouted it wasn't real. Others buried their heads in trembling hands. But the truth couldn't be drowned. Not anymore. I triggered the next stage. The hall doors creaked open, but only one path led out. A long corridor, lined with flickering emergency lights, leading deeper into the ship. Slowly they were herded forward, step by step, like cattle into the unknown. The corridor twisted into the engine decks. Here the walls sweated heat, the air thick with the roar of machinery. I had designed it carefully. Alarms shrieked, vents hissed steam, false fires flared behind glass. To them it was hell. To me it was justice. I watched from above, hidden in the catwalks. The once proud investors, the smug executives, the untouchable elite, now reduced to terrified shadows stumbling through the maze. They shoved each other, begged for exits that didn't exist, cursed their own greed. The irony was perfect. The same greed that once pushed them to ignore safety, to risk lives for profit, was now the chain dragging them into fear. One of them, the architect, the man whose signature had sealed my family's fate, broke away from the group. He ran gasping down a side passage. I followed, silent as a ghost, until he collapsed against a wall. His face was pale, his eyes wild. He looked up and recognition struck him like lightning. It can't be. Oh, it's me, I whispered. And this ship is ours now. He begged, of course. They always do. Promises of money. Pleas for mercy. But no amount of gold could buy back the lives they had stolen. I left him screaming in the dark, the ship itself answering his cries with groans of steel. By nightfall, chaos reigned. Groups huddled in corners, whispering prayers. The ballroom, once glittering with lights, now stood as a cage of shadows. I stepped onto the balcony above them. Dozens of faces stared up at me. Faces pale with terror. Faces that once smiled at blood money. This, I said, my voice echoing through the hall, is the true cost of greed. This ship is your prison just as it once was mine. Every scream, every tear, every death you ignored, today it all comes back. They begged for release, for forgiveness. But forgiveness was never part of the plan. Outside the sea raged. Waves slammed against the hull, lightning carved scars across the sky. The ship groaned, a beast alive and furious. They thought it was the storm that trapped them. But no, it was me. And as the night swallowed us all, I knew one truth with burning clarity. The ocean never forgets. And neither do I.